I'm here, baby.
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Nick, and I am bringing you a review of HiFi Rush today. Dropped on Game Pass and PC day one of announcing on the trailer. So that was very exciting. Nice shadow drop that we got from this game. You will see lots of my gameplay footage here, so you may see me doing amazing. You may not see the most amazing things, but it's all me playing, and it is true to the point. But let's get started. First thing I want to talk about, this game is unlike anything that personally I've ever played before, but it still feels familiar. If that doesn't make any sense, then stick around and I'll try to explain, do my best at least. But this game, in my opinion, creates a new genre of games. Its style is unlike anything you've seen before, and it's not cel-shaded as much as it's a Saturday morning cartoon in game form. Very clean visuals on this. It looks amazing, plays amazing. We're going to talk some in-depth stuff on it here. So we're going to get started kind of with the narrative of the premise of the game. So in HiFi Rush, you play as Chai. He's a music-loving dreamer kid who accidentally has an iPod modded into his chest and a new robotic arm attached, allowing him to hear the beat of the world around him. And with this ability, he has a magnetic guitar. It's a magnetically capable to just pull to him at any point in time just to make him feel like a rocker. He's kind of the dreamer kid of a rock star, more or less is the way I would put him. He had a disability on his right arm, and he goes to Vandelay Robotics, which is kind of a joke, I think, towards Seinfeld. If you guys are familiar with that, you should get a good laugh about it. I know I did. But yeah, he goes in with a disability in his arm, comes out with a awesome magnetic arm. Well, it's not as magnetic as it is just robotic, but with magnetic features when it comes to his guitar. And he finds himself wrapped up in Vandelay Robotics company turmoil, full of twists and turns. And after they have announced a new product that's not exactly as it seems, it's now time for Chai and his unexpected friends to team up and take down the corporate bosses of this shady company and find out the corporate dirty deeds. When starting off, you'll quickly realize the entire combat system is rhythm-based. Fighting on the beat, although not required, will warrant you amazing fights, style, and the sense of being true rockstar badass. Now, just talking a little bit more about that part of it, we'll talk a little more in gameplay too as I continue, but you don't have to hit on the beat. The game entices you to do so because it's much cooler, more flashier. A lot of the onomatopoeia effects are popping up when you do that. Cool combos that they want you to do. All of it, not necessary. There are some QTE events that I'll talk about a little bit later here coming up that are required to be on beat. However, this is not for combat. You could just go in and button mash and have a good time, although it could be a little bit more difficult doing that, but it's still doable. Now, onto the graphics. Looks like a cartoon, like I was saying. Hands down the best looking game in this style that you'll find, in my opinion. Super clean, in and out of cutscenes, into game, no load times. It just pops in and out, it happens. There is a slight difference in frame rate when that does happen because you're going to go from a cartoon, physical cartoon, to a gameplay cartoon. Now, this doesn't change the way the game feels. Some people have mentioned that it maybe is a little jarring to them, going from a certain frame rate down. It was not jarring at all for me. It was a very great experience going right into just watching a cartoon that looks like the video game and vice versa. The only difference being that, when you play, things move really fast and smooth and quick, but when you're watching, it just feels more like you're watching a cartoon instead of playing it, which makes sense. We want to have the frame rate and the playability at a higher frame rate so that things are just smoother and faster and just more fun and pleasant to play. But the cleanest looking game I've ever played. Everything looks amazing. It truly is a first-time experience for me personally, and I cannot wait to get more of it. I'm hoping for more sequels or some more from Tango Gameworks because it took me by surprise. It's absolutely fantastic. The colors are bright and vibrant. The bosses, the characters, the enemies, the effects, everything looks amazing in this game. And honestly, it plays great. I did not have any real issues or hiccups, and we're going to talk about a little more of that now on performance. So I played this on the Xbox Series X under Game Pass, and stable the entire time. The only thing I want to make a quick mention of is a few times I did have a complete loss of audio. Now, I'm not really sure if that was anything other than my equipment, but I can verify that this is the only game that did that to me in the entire time I was playing, and I was kind of bouncing around from other games as well as playing HiFi Rush. So, did not have that issue on any other games, and I can only account for it happening twice to me in my gameplay. It was maybe a second or two long, and then the audio was straight back, and it was not out of sync or anything like that. So I'm not 100% sure what caused that, but it did feel like it was the game itself to me. Now, audio voice acting wise, amazing. I think it's really well acted. The actors just knew the assignment. They went in and they just had a good time with the roles they were put into. Sound design, fantastic. All of the effects in the battles, and just kind of the different noises you get from everything. Obviously, the music is another one. The soundtrack is amazing. I mean, you got 9 Inch Nails all the way down to Bethesda created music that is great. Like, it's really good. This game also has a streamer functionality to where you can stream the game on Twitch or whatever feed you'd like with a different audio track that is completely copyright free, so you can still play and not get hit with any of those strikes or those bans. So more of that, please. That we would love that. But you can't help but get into the music, though, when you're playing this game. All of it is on theme for the world you're playing it in, and you can just tell it was built for it. And you kind of just get into it. Like, you're just bobbing your head and tapping your foot, and you're just kind of getting into it with all the rhythm-based stuff that happens. And as you're hitting, rhythm-based battles and staying on track for the rhythm, it really makes the difference in the game. You're feeling that audio, that soundtrack, all those hits just feel like they hit a little bit harder when you're doing it on beat. So stick to that. That's a really cool thing. Now, speaking of rhythm, this is a rhythm action platformer. That's at least what I would determine it. It is lots of jumping, fighting, and rhythm-based puzzles that you gotta get through. Some of them can become a little bit tough depending on your skill set. I did run into a few issues on mine with some QTEs that I'll talk about as well, that I just thought maybe could have used some tweaking. We'll put it that way for right now. But the combos in the game, they are a big part of the combat, and you'll be able to pull off some extra badass combos with the help of your teammates 808, Peppermint, and Macaron. Now, there are other people in the game. There are other characters in the game. I'm not going to spoil any of that kind of stuff for you. We're just going to talk about the 3 mains, basically. 808's not really a main as much as just kind of a little sidekick. He is a cat, he or she, depending on who is. Well, I'll leave that to you guys to find out. But Peppermint and Macaron, they have really good stories. They're just some side characters, but they have really nicely built-in interweaving of character development and story and the mission they're on and why. I really enjoyed. But each of them also have specific abilities that you'll find yourself using them more and more as the game goes on. I know toward the end, without those characters, I was kind of lost. I just loved calling them in and getting them to help out, and it's just on the fly. They're cooldowns you can tweak as you're playing, so you can put in different chips, and they're essentially like a guitar pick that you can kind of put in to your skill set, and it'll give you a buff or maybe even a debuff. A couple of them are kind of jokey, so you have to check those out and enjoy those as well. But you will want you'll want to use these characters equally. Let me put it that way. It's a really well implemented mechanic, and it's just 2 simple buttons. It's a left trigger to switch between what character, and it's a right trigger to throw them in there, and they'll do the battles. And you can time your call-ins to the beat, and you can get some cool extra combos, and you can unlock more of those with points and gears that you find throughout the game. They're like parts that you'll locate. That's part of the XP and the build-up. So I kind of want to go over a little bit of my likes and dislikes here toward the end of the video and give you my overall thought process on what I think of the game. But likes, loves are going to be art style. I mean, that's a love. That's in the love column. It's so good. I want to see more of this. I'm a big purveyor of that cartoony look. Um, Similar to like Psychonauts 2 did at a level that was completely drawn and everything just looked like hand stitched. I loved that. I just really like this just style for me. So that is my biggest number one. I absolutely loved. I could just watch people play this game and have a blast, and I would watch an anime if they put one out. That would be amazing. But the characters are fun and goofy enough just to keep them, as a good time throughout the gameplay. Like they were funny when they needed to be funny. They were serious when they needed to be serious, and it was a good time. It really was. It was just a lot of fun. Tutorials are one of my big pet peeves, guys, and thankfully this game does a great job of incorporating the tutorials right into the story through the entire game. Now, most of that's kind of hits you up front. It's not really front-loaded as much as some people may think, because it is built into the story. They do let you play as you continue, so you're not just standing still being shown 40 things that you're going to use throughout the game in about 30 minutes. They kind of give it to you slow as you continue through the game, which I really like. I'd say the first couple of hours of the game is a lot of tutorial just tossed in there for you. But it keeps you up to date on new abilities and even cracks a bunch of jokes while doing all of this too, which I really liked. Even the enemies and the smaller bad guys are hysterical. The robots that they have built in to the world are always, cracking a joke or two, or the puns come out every once in a while. It's great. So that always helps, during tutorials, crack a laugh, something many of us don't find a lot in video games, or we also don't find tutorials very fun either. So this makes it fun, which is kind of cool, and I definitely appreciated it. Load times in the game, another big plus and like of mine. They don't exist switching between the cutscenes and everything, like I mentioned. The only time I ever had a cutscene was when you completely lose all your health and you do die. You have to reload the game. So that takes a few seconds on a Series X like I was playing on. It's not really a big deal at all. So some things I'm kind of middling on. Just one thing mainly on this is the parrying system. So I don't think this is a love or hate kind of parrying system, because, it has accessibility functionality, and it also has the option of you just getting used to it and you'll learn it, but you have to parry on beat 99% of the time or you're just going to die. So QTEs that I mentioned earlier and parry, you have to do on time. If you don't do them on time, you are going to die a lot more. That's hands down. I did test that theory because I was curious. So the parrying system, it goes from a point where you feel comfortable with the game, and then they introduce the parrying system, and you kind of don't feel comfortable anymore. You have a whole new big thing you have to learn that's going to be forced upon you, unlike the rest, where it was just kind of like button mash, have a good time, enjoy the story and the battles, which was the biggest thing for me. I did enjoy that a lot. Now, the parrying system did not break my fun or the gameplay, but just for everybody out there who's kind of wondering on that, if you're not good at parrying in video games, I'm not the best, I'll be completely honest. This may be a little bit of an issue for you all as well, but that was kind of in between on that one. I didn't love or hate it. It was just kind of there, and I kind of got used to it, and I never got real good at it. Now, some of my dislikes: unneeded QuickTime events, rhythm puzzles for unlocks. It was really silly to me. When you call in certain characters, like Peppermint, for example, she can shoot certain things. Hers is super simple. You call her in, and you point at what you want to shoot, and she shoots. That's it. Then Macaron, you get him. His becomes a little bit, it's like 2 steps. You got to call him in, you got to hold a trigger, and then you got to time the release. You're good. Characters you get a little later on are way too much. It's like X, B, Y, and A, and then, not for specific characters on that particular one, but when you get further into the game, there are X, B, Y, and A puzzles or QuickTime events that you have to do on beat, on time, or it will not unlock whatever you're doing. You can get yourself caught on those. I think I actually did have maybe a small issue with one of mine where the timing was off and it would not release. I had, the whole time I tried to correct myself, and eventually I got through it, but it was frustrating because I could never figure out what actually was wrong with my timing or the game. So you might run into that kind of stuff. And the thing about it, as mentioned, with some later characters you get to join the team are, they implement the right trigger, and that the right trigger should not be used for quick responses. Any trigger, period. Because there's so much travel in the trigger, and you have to release the trigger and hit it again, and you have to do that in quick succession. So it's kind of like firing a gun, but if you don't fire at the right time and release at the right time, then you could get stuck. So I did not like the quick time events in this. I feel like they needed to be dumbed down to a point where they weren't maybe on rhythm. And yeah, maybe you did have to hit certain buttons at certain times, but maybe like change it to a percentage of them, where like if you hit more than half of them, it's still going to let you pass, that kind of thing. And the reason why is because at later points in the game, you do this particular puzzle, you get through it, it was frustrating, and then now you have to do a platforming puzzle right after that's timed. Otherwise, you'll die, and you'll have to just restart from the beginning again and do the QTE puzzle and do the platforming puzzle again right after. That was a bummer for me. I did not like that at all. That did hamper the way I felt about the game, which the overall great game, but it did lose some points and some marks for me personally. But the last thing I need to talk about that I think they need to fix: throughout the game, you will find pickups for upgrades. Now, when you're picking these items up, the screen is cluttered, basically blocked with all the large explaining. It's a large box explaining everything that you just found. Now, this never changed the entire game. Like, it was always this. This is something that should come up the first time you find whatever this particular piece is, which is usually an upgrade in the game, and then it shouldn't do it again. But it doesn't stop. Every time you find this, it continues to come up. So this box will stay on until you press the back button, which in this case was the B button. And I'll admit, the first time I ran into this in the game, I have never seen this happen before. Most of the time, it's a quick prompt and it goes away, but you've never been forced to like back out of the actual screen. So it seems kind of like it was an oversight in the game, because later in the game, when you find other upgrades, they will notify you in the very bottom right corner that you've picked them up, and they're out of the way of all of your, inconvenience. They're not covering your screen up. And the reason this is a problem is because you can pick these things up and you're kind of running through the world, and you could be on like a platform where you could fall off and, lose health and so on and so forth. So the fact that it made you back out of it and it was so largely covering the screen, I did not like. But I mean, call that a pet peeve, call it what you will, but I think it's easily fixable if they could patch the game to just put all that in the bottom right-hand corner like we got later in the game itself. So I want to go overall value before we talk about my final thoughts on the game. But overall, I feel for $29, if you buy this game on PC or on Xbox and you're not a Game Pass subscriber, this game has plenty of value. Once you fall in love with this game, you'll want to go back and play on harder difficulties, search for all the corners, and find those sweet, sweet collectibles, because they're actually in really fun little hidden spots. Finding the pieces of your mural that you can make in your home base is really cool as well. I didn't find all of them through my first game playthrough, but I'm hoping to find them all as I continue playing back. And the other thing is, building up Chai with new powers for different playthroughs can be a lot of fun too. So I played through a little bit more of a, just high-powered character, but you could definitely lean more into your combos and your teammates and using them a little bit more often starting out too, which I don't find that being a negative at all. It just adds more fun to the game when you go back in and be able to play more and more. And just different loadouts is what it comes down to, because you can change the guitar picks you put in and whatever super abilities you use for your main strikes. Yeah, it could be a lot of fun and a lot of added gameplay. But yeah, I mean, this is an overall solid value for me. My gameplay ended with over 12 hours, just a little over, and I played on normal. So that's some reference for everyone out there that might check it out and is watching the video now. You can definitely up the difficulty, and it's definitely going to increase your gameplay time, because this game can get difficult. So I think for a $30 title, it is absolutely worth what you're getting. You're going to get, not the $1 an hour we talk a lot about on our show, but close. I bet you could probably get through it in 20 or so hours, even on harder difficulties, and kind of searching everywhere. And I think it's worth it. So value is there. So final thoughts for me. I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5. It's not a bad score at all by any means. It's a fantastic game, but I do have to take some points away for the QTE issues. Just some of the way they implemented platforming on top of QTEs, and all of it was timed, with meaning you only have a certain amount of time to get it done, and you're gonna be forced to do it multiple times. You're never really gonna get it right on your first try, especially some of the later puzzles that they send you through on the platforming. But, you know, for me personally, you know, that all diverted from the feel of the game that was there the entire game. I'd love to see these implemented in a different way. If we get a sequel for anyone, you know, or if anyone else takes a shot, let's be honest. If we don't get a sequel from this, maybe other companies are going to take note and give another shot at a game like this with a different layout or playthrough. But this is definitely topping my list of the best games I've played in 2023, and we're real early, so this is going to stay up there in the top 5 for a while until some things dethrone it. But, you know, I think it's a great start, and, you know, I want to say thanks to the developers, you know, for making something that I can tell there's passion in this. That is a huge, huge deal, and you guys rock. And that's it. Leave us a comment and let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do that. The best way to see all of our new content first is a subscription, so click subscribe, enable all notifications, and of course, thank you for watching this video. I'm Nick, and you can follow me on Twitter @Hailfront. Be sure to stay loud, and until next time, we'll see you right here on Loudthumbs.